My father was a musician, so I grew up in sort of an alternative lifestyle with a lot of alternative ideas, drugs, and things like that. My core family didn't fit into the culture we lived in. And then abuse made me feel even more alienated from what was going on. Plus, a lot of kids around me were being abused as well. So you didn't think, well, I'm different. I think like a lot of people who came from a lot of abuse, you create this immense internal landscape or something, you know. So, you know, there was sort of an internal landscape, and then in dealing with the outside world, the best way I was able to do that was first through sports, and then music came second. And I thought I had everything kind of under control when I hit my sort of late teens, early 20s, and it really wasn't until public life came into my life that it all kind of came back out. I cut myself, I stayed up all night, you know, I did things with sleep deprivation, you know, I got into, like, I guess what you would call obsessive compulsive behaviors these days. Like, I had 10,000 baseball cards, and I would take them apart and alphabetize them, you know, for 5 hours, mind-numbingly so, and then the next day decide to put them all in numerical order. I've probably had about 3 to 4 periods in my life where I've been completely despondent, ready to jump off a roof. My father had a lot of drug issues, so I'd sort of made up my mind in my teens that I didn't want it to have anything to do with drugs or alcohol. The difficulty was that I never sort of put the two together. You know, I saw his choices as his choices. It took me a long time to realize his choices had a negative impact on me. And I look back very humbly on some teachers and stuff that pulled me aside and said, man, what's going on? I guess I didn't really think that there was a context by which to talk to him in. Like if I told him, oh, you know, I'm getting the shit kicked out of me every day, you know, that they would have done anything. You know what I mean? It isn't like today where people go to jail for abusing their kids, and there's public service messages. I mean, when I grew up, there was no information. There was nothing. It was like there was nowhere to go. So even if somebody pulled you aside, you think, well, I'm just going to get in more trouble. I thought the thoughts in my head were mine alone. I thought the feelings I was having were mine alone. Mm-hmm. And I was raised to believe that those kinds of thoughts were weak. You know, that to think like that, to think about running away or to think about killing yourself or anything in that context, something, you know, dramatic, was your own problem, that you were weak, that you couldn't deal, you know. Honestly, the magnitude of my internal issues really didn't hit me until the band really started becoming a public entity. And I started receiving this, you know, like anybody does, kind of weird criticism. You start hearing things about yourself you didn't know. Oh, your nose is crooked or whatever. You're suddenly facing the mirror of the world's expectations. As absurd and grandiose as it sounds, it really took being a huge band, having a #1 record, being on the cover of Rolling Stone to realize that I wasn't going to find what I was looking for there. When you're a teenager or an adult and you're faced with these situations where you're overwhelmed by your feelings, you know, I can at least sit here and say, you're not going to find it at the end of a crack pipe or, you know, at the end of a gold record road or, you know, a hit movie. Like, you're not going to find it. It's really an internal issue. And I think if I'd known that, that would have saved me some despair down the road. I still do. I mean, I still feel like I feel like I was just standing on the shore enjoying a nice sunny day, and, you know, all of a sudden this just big wave washed over my whole life, and suddenly I find myself looking at everything differently, and food doesn't taste the same, and I don't feel the same, and I wonder what's wrong with me. And, you know, I'm much better at accessing resources these days and reaching out to people I can talk to, but I still find life an overwhelming proposition. Every time I've been on the precipice of you know, jumping off a cliff or doing something crazy or, you know, whatever, if I saw what was going to come later, if I'd been able to easily see what was going to ahead in my life, there's no way I would even consider it. Life is full of so many sublime, beautiful moments that to be your own judge and jury, I think, is asking too much of yourself. You're making an assumption that you're out of options, that this is the option. I think there's nothing to be ashamed of I think what's the shame is that you go in and close a door and sit there and brood and spin and, drill yourself into the ground. I think that's the shame. If you don't give other people in your life the opportunity to lift you up, again, you're making a call that you shouldn't be making.